Hey guys, Aquatic Bob's here. Tonight's video is going to be about how this hobby helped save my life, why it's so important to me, what kind of a difference it's made in my life, what it's helped me with, and just want to share with you guys a little bit of how valuable this tank and everything that's involved in it, how valuable it is to me. So let's get into it here. So first, really quick thought to share with you guys. Bear with me in the video and talking. So I've passed 1,000 subscribers, but it's hard to shoot good video and talk at the same time. I'm learning more and more. So every time I fail and make a mistake or I mess something up, I hear about it from a lot of people. Well, not a lot, but people tell me, and I appreciate that though, because I learn. It's in those moments that nobody says anything to you or always just says, oh yeah, that's good, nice job, that's cool. I don't really learn a whole lot, but it's in the moments where people tell me, man, that camera work was really rough today. Those are bad shots, those were blurry shots of coral. I can't believe I'm admitting this out loud, but it's in those moments that I don't sleep well at night. And I'm like, I've got to get better camera shots. I've got to get better shots of the fish. I got to fix the lighting in my videos. And so, little shout out to my wife, Sarah, who has edited all my videos for me up until 3 videos ago. The last 3 videos that I've put out all have been me. I finally overcame the fear of editing. And man, it's so cool. Editing videos is fun. It's scary and it's hard, and there's so much to it that I still don't know, but I think it's pretty cool, especially when I'm going over my own content and really trying to deliver something to you guys that's worth it and valuable, that you're going to appreciate and be entertained by and possibly learn from. But yeah, I really have enjoyed editing so far. So anyways, I get thrown off track so easy, but it's hard to shoot good video and talk at the same time. So, but just know it's something that I'm working on. I'm conscious of it and I want to improve at it. So let's go back to when I was a little bit younger. Okay, a lot younger. I grew up, had a good family. My parents actually divorced when I was 9 years old, but my dad and mom have always loved me, even when they separated. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit trail of, stepmoms and step siblings and everything. But I've had a tough life with family since the divorce, and things became challenging in the sense of me because of pride issues that I had, self-security issues, the need to be accepted, the desire to be loved and cared about. I was the kid in school who did all the stupid things and did all the dumb dares. Remember back in school, high school, maybe college, where somebody came up with some of the dumbest dares that you could do and said, I'll give you $100 if you do this. Well, I was the kid that did almost all of them because I wanted the attention. I needed attention to feel accepted and to feel cared about. And it was a huge emptiness in me. So not long after, I started using drugs, started smoking pot, and when I was a hockey player, really good hockey player from the state of Minnesota, and hockey was pretty much my life. It was like a god to me. And I was in the playoffs one year. I fell, dislocated my shoulder, and wound up going to the hospital. They gave me some painkillers, and it was game on from then. So I'd already been smoking pot. I drank a few times. Now I'm taking painkillers, and man, that felt really good at the time. And it kind of masked those feelings that I was always feeling empty about. It actually kind of made me feel okay. Like I could just be okay with being high and that would be acceptable. And so I started using drugs more and more to the point where It really ruined my life. I had stolen from my own hockey team, stole money from the other players on the team. I was stealing money from my family. I was hurting my friends. I was hurting all the people that loved me and cared about me, to the point it got so bad that I had no options left. I'd been kicked out of every place that I lived at. I'd been asked to leave, not come back. A lot of my friends' parents knew that when I was coming around, like, they had to keep their guard up. Finally, they would just ask their kids not to even let me come around anymore. Like, I was an embarrassment to my family name. And so I had nothing left. So I wound up joining the Army. And I had an uncle who was a recruiter, and he let me get a huge sign-on bonus. He helped me get, and $30,000 actually for this sign-on bonus. And so I got the sign-on bonus, and after your first year you get 10 grand. After the second year you get 10 grand. Then after the third year you get 10 grand. And so I went to basic training, Fort Benning. So I went through basic training in Fort Benning, Georgia, and man, I hated it. Like, I was so used to living my own way, pride and arrogance and whatever I wanted to do. And then I joined the Army, go to basic training, and all of a sudden I don't get to do anything that I want anymore. Like, everything gets stripped away from me. And I was in such a bad place already. Like, I had such a bad attitude. I wasn't really remorseful that I got caught. I was more sad. I wasn't really remorseful about anything that I did. I was just more sad that I got caught, and I got called out on what I was doing. Like, I was a mean kid. I was a really mean kid. And so I go through basic, and the Army was hard. And it's not hard in the sense of having to learn a job. So I joined as an air traffic control operator. And it wasn't really hard to learn the job. It was hard just because I had to change the way that I was living. That's the hardest thing that any of us can do in life, is to actually change direction in life. Change the way that you're living. Do something different. And I never really accepted the fact that I had to change the way that I was living. So I got really good at pretending now too. So I became a professional at putting up a show in a facade, like I was making it, like everything was good. And truth be told, I actually, as an air traffic control operator in the Army, now a lot of you guys know what that is. Some people think that they're the guys that stand on the runway and wave the flags around. Air traffic control is the people who sit in the towers or the radar facilities, or mobile vehicles, and they actually talk to pilots and control the traffic in the air, telling pilots where to go, how high to fly, when to land, where to watch out for other traffic. It's basically like command center for the pilots. And so I finished top of my class in advanced individual training in the military. For air traffic control. Like, I did super well. And even in the Army, I was still finding a way at the time to get painkillers, and I was drinking heavily and still hurting a lot of people. But I would show up to work and put on a mask and put on a show that everybody wanted to see. So I made it through the day. So I get done with training and everything right away. It almost makes my heart skip a beat a little bit thinking about it. Right away I get deployed to Afghanistan. You know, I'd grown up watching all these shows, watching all these movies, and hearing reports of soldiers getting deployed. And this was back in 2009. Whoop, sorry about that. This was back in 2009, and that was kind of a hostile time. We were in Afghanistan and Iraq. I wound up getting deployed to Afghanistan. I was in Kandahar for a few months, and then spent the rest of my year in Tarankout, Afghanistan. And it was just a small base, but over there, so funny side story. I love these rabbit trail stories, but the local nationals. So those were the local Afghan citizens. They would have to sit in we call it the soak yard, for 24 hours before they could come onto the base and do their job. So they would drive their vehicles into the soak yard, and it would be guarded by U.S. troops and Dutch troops, and they would get inspected at the end of their 24 hours, and if everything was good and all clear, they'd get let onto the base. But me and my buddy would go out there late at night with a big bag of all the canned goods and all the care packages that we would get from back home, and we would walk out to the middle of the soak yard and just drop it on the ground, and all the local national Afghan citizens would come running up to us, and they'd want to trade for it. They'd want to trade for some of the soup or the crackers or popcorn or some of the canned foods, and we would tell them, what do you got? And they'd try to offer whiskey or maybe even money, other stuff like that, and we'd be like, no, we want hashish or charsa, which is basically caked THC, a lot of times laced with opiates. And we would say, no, we want hashish. And they would always be like, oh, sir, we don't have hashish, no hashish, sorry. So what we would do is we would pick up the bag of food and we would just start walking away. We would start walking back to our truck, and all of a sudden there'd be a few of them who would run after us. And they would be like, hold on, you come with me, I show you good stuff here, sir. And they'd go into their truck in some really weird compartment or something, and they'd pull out a big sheet of hashish. They'd rip it in half and say, here, I give you this, what do you give me? And so we'd go in and we'd pretty much just give them the whole bag, and we were just happy to get our slab of hashish and to be able to smoke it. And and then we would go and we'd smoke it, and we'd even smoke it while on shift and while doing our work and everything, controlling air traffic. And kind of scary to think about, but I mean, we were really good at it. That doesn't justify it at all, but we'd be sitting in the tower, and me and my buddy, we were so good we got to kind of choose our shift. So we would do the overnight shifts, and we'd sit in the tower and smoke and get so high that when some of the aircraft would call in, so like I remember one night the helicopter that called in at like 2 a.m. over there was Lizard 26. That was the aircraft call sign. They're like, TK Tower, this is Lizard 26 coming in, and spewed off the information or whatever. And we just looked at each other, probably because they said lizard or something, and we just looked at each other, and we just started laughing so hard and uncontrollably that they flew another 5 miles into the airfield before we were even able to respond on the radio to them. And man, it was just the way that we lived. We came back from Afghanistan, partied, and okay, so long story short, I could go on and on all day. The long story short is I made a lot of bad decisions, and eventually it caught up to me, and I got kicked out of the Army. And because my unit was getting deployed again right at that time, this was about just under a year after we had come back, but because my unit was getting deployed again and I was such a handful and such a mess, the fastest way for them to get me out was to honorably discharge me. So I wound up getting an honorable discharge out of the whole deal. And I mean, to this day, I'm so thankful, but I really got by with that one. That was a blessing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had any medical insurance or anything. But so I got an honorable discharge, and you'd think that I'd have learned, you'd think that I'd have learned something by that point, but I didn't. I was still using drugs. I came back, I started using crack, smoking crack, using cocaine, painkillers, heavy drugs, PCP, ecstasy, man, just everything that I could get my hands on, I was using it. And it got so bad that I would go in for my doctor appointments because my mental health was so unstable at the time. And if they didn't do what I wanted them to do, I would literally just walk out of the hospital, and they would always have to call security to come and find me because they were so worried about my mental health. They thought I was a danger to myself and a danger to others. All right, my phone died. So where did we leave off now? You can tell the tank's a little more blue. Distracted already. Yep, see, that's me, just distracted. But yeah, so I was saying, I think that's how bad my life got, to the point that everybody was just worried about me. And some people were just afraid of me. People didn't even want to be around me anymore. I just kept using, kept abusing drugs, kept abusing my friendships, kept abusing privileges and jobs and work and money, and even, man, I did a lot of bad stuff. But without getting into too much more detail about all that, I come a few years later now, and this is about 6 years ago or so, I decided, like, I can't keep doing this. I'd hit rock bottom so many times, and something in me just decided, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to hurt the people that I love. I don't want to hurt the people that I care about. I don't want to hurt the only few friends that I have left. And so I started getting serious about recovery and started looking into how I could get some help, and tried Teen Challenge, tried Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment, and nothing really worked. And the only thing that actually helped was when I got involved in a community of people who actually cared about me enough to tell me the truth. So one of the hard thoughts is, most of the time that I was using and in a bad place, is people were either too afraid of me or didn't care about me anymore enough to even tell me the truth, and how destructive I was being in love, in a way that I could hear and respond to, but also the truth, right? And of course, family, you never listen to family when you're in those moments. So even though my family was trying, I couldn't hear them at that time. But I got surrounded in a community at church of believers, people who trusted God and loved the idea that there's a God out there who loves us enough that he sent his own son to die for us, and that whoever would believe that and receive him into their heart would spend an eternity with him forever. And I started to fall in love with that idea. And I started to fall in love with it so much that I started reading the Bible 7-8 hours a day, and praying, screaming out the window in the middle of the night, Jesus, you mother effer, if you're effing real, you better effing show me. And just going off. Like, that's all I had left, was just this little shred of hope that maybe there truthfully was a God out there who was who he said he was, the one and only true way to the Father is through the Son, and maybe he really was who he said he was. And so something changed in my heart, something started to change, and not long after that, I met my wife and bought her a betta fish. And my wife, Sarah, she loves when I talk about her on YouTube. But I bought her a betta fish, came home, and she actually liked it. And I liked it. So I started thinking, maybe we'll get a bigger fish tank. I had one when I was a kid, and I thought it'd be a cool idea. So I bought a 10-gallon tank and brought it home, and we liked it. My wife liked it. We enjoyed it. We spent time together kind of working on it, looking at it, and watching the fish. We enjoyed going to the store to buy a fish. And then all of a sudden it started to turn into something more for me. and she was okay with just the 10-gallon tank, but I wanted more. Like, I wanted more fish. I wanted bigger fish. I wasn't okay with just these little fish that hide in the corner all day, and so I found reasons to justify buying another bigger tank. So we upgraded to a 20-gallon tank and got more fish. Then we upgraded again to a 29-gallon tank and bought more fish. Then I was like, man, saltwater is so cool. And when I first got into the hobby, all the people that I asked for advice from were just wrong about so much. Like, when you go to Petco or PetSmart or your local pet store, most of the people there don't really know what they're talking about when it comes to advanced saltwater. I was told the only way that you could keep a saltwater tank was if you got a canister filter, a big canister filter. And and she was very adamant. Like, she was not going to sell me anything unless I bought a canister filter. Like, they were very hardcore about it. And so I went and did a little bit of research and decided, all right, well, I'll get a canister filter. And so I got the Cascade canister filter. And check out Mikey Mike if you're interested in doing a canister filter on your reef tank. I'm not a big fan of it, but he shows you how you can make it work, and not just make it work, but it can go well. It can be good for you. So he gives some great advice on that, some great tips and help. So I got a canister filter, set up a tank, and man, I've never been the same since. I've spent so much time, effort, and energy on doing this. More of my heart goes into this than my job, because I love it. I appreciate it. And that's how it's helped save my life, is because at a time in life where there was a lot of changes going on, and there were some big changes in my heart and in my faith, and I got to this point where I was like, now all that old stuff is gone. Now we need to fill it with something new. And so having a relationship with God was the pivotal moment of everything in my life. And I sincerely believe that God's allowed me to step into this hobby with the capacity that I have, because it's been such a help to me. And it's been a help to a lot of you. Maybe this story, this testimony that I'm sharing, maybe in some way, somehow it can encourage you to not quit, to not give up. Maybe you haven't struggled with drugs, but maybe you're struggling with pornography, or maybe you're struggling with a bad addiction to something else, or drinking, or you just want to kick that habit of tobacco, or whatever it is. And the truth is it's good to make mistakes. It's good to fail. It's good to struggle. It's good to have hardship, because it's in those moments that we're tested and stretched, and that we're built up and strengthened. It's when we fail that we learn the most and we're strengthened the most. So you have to allow those hardships to come in life. You have to allow them, and you have to look forward to them and embrace them, because that's what will build you into the person that you were really meant to be, that you were really supposed to be. No more trying to find easy ways out. No more trying to escape every difficult situation. Some bad situations are just because of our own stupidity. But when life happens and things get difficult, no more trying to find the easy way out. Instead, try to find a way to notice the good in it, have a good attitude about it, and find a way to embrace it and make something out of it. Use it to your advantage, instead of moping and doping and groping around and whining and complaining about everything when it's not going to change anything. It's only going to make you feel worse, and it's only going to make the people around you who want to help you, it's going to make them not want to help you anymore. Instead of doing all that, look for the good stuff in it. Be an inspiration to others around you. Be an encouragement to others around you. A lot of you who watch this channel, you have a reef tank. We've all run into difficult moments, right? Some more difficult than others. Some have had total system crashes and lost tens of thousands of dollars. It's happened. What do you do in that moment? What do you do? It's a sucky loss, and I feel your pain. I've had some losses too, I get it. It's a sucky loss, but what do you do? It's okay to grieve. It's okay to mourn a loss like that. But if all you're going to do is mope and let it just suck the life out of you and suck the life out of the people around you, you're missing out on so much. And you're hurting the people that you love and that you care about. So I just wanted to encourage you guys with that. Boy, that got real, huh? That got personal, man. But it's because I sincerely care about you guys. I care that you know the truth. I care that you know that this life has so much more to offer than just pleasure and personal satisfaction and personal gain and just living your best life now and here. There's so much more to it than that. There's so much more to relationships and to our jobs, and man, there's so many people I know out there that are just miserable at work. They're miserable with everything that they do. And it's not even fun to listen to them talk about it anymore. It's miserable to listen to them now. Don't be that person. Don't let life get the best of you and act like a victim. And I know, okay, that was maybe a little unsensitive, but even for as much as we've been treated poorly or dealt the bad hand, we have every opportunity, as long as there's breath in our lungs, to do something right and do something good and make it better for our future generation and our kids. Alright, you guys, so I hope that this video was as epic for you as it was for me. I appreciate the audience. I appreciate so many of your comments and your encouragement, your thumbs up, your subscription, your support. It just means so much to me. And yeah, so I'm just gonna keep on doing what I'm doing here, and hopefully I can make some more videos where we just get to the heart of the matter, right? That's what this life is about. We can distract ourselves for a while, but at the end of the day, you gotta sleep in your own bed. And the thoughts and your emotions and your feelings, them things are real, man. And you can't just keep burying that forever. At some point, it's got to come to the surface. It's got to come out, and you got to deal with it. You got to address it. So I just want you to know that you're not alone. And if you're in a place of hardship right now, man, it's good. Embrace it. Embrace that hardship. Bite down. Gird up the loins, right? Man up, woman up, and let's do it. If you're in a hard spot, if you're in a difficult position right now, share it in the comments. Let us build you up, let us encourage you, and remind each other that we're here for each other. We're not alone, right? We're all part of the body, and when the mafia comes and takes you, hypothetically, and they take you to their boss, who puts your hand down on a table and is about to smash your hand with a hammer unless you do everything that he wants you to do. You don't look at your hand and just say, well, I don't care about that hand. I don't care about it. That's a different member of the body. No, you love that hand. You don't want that hand to get smashed. Some of you guys out there are the hands. Some of you are the feet. Some of you are the mouth. Some of you are the head and the brains, and maybe some of you are even the butt cheeks, but you know what I'm saying. So we got an opportunity here. Let's take advantage of it. Thanks for watching, guys. Aquatic Bob's out.